Welcome to 5 and 5 from the One Stop Co-op Shop, where I discuss 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm looking at Oathsworn, the 1 to 4 player campaign-based boss battling adventure game. And a quick disclaimer that I did get a review copy of this game. Oathsworn has been one of my most anticipated games for over a year. It's one of the boss battlers I am most excited to dig into more. Did the final product live up to the hype? Let's find out and get to the list. So first at number 5, I'm going to start out with a mix, and that's focused on the story, campaign, adventure side of the gameplay. Before each boss fight, you have a sort of choose-your-own-adventure narrative session where you go to locations, make choices, manage time, perform dice or card checks. And on the positive side, the story in these moments is really engaging and well-written. They present you with really tough moral choices to make. They also have a well-made app that makes all of this section a lot easier to run through and has great narration, although as of my recording, not all of the missions are implemented in there. And one more positive, if you don't like long, drawn-out narratives, they have a sort of summarized version you can use in your play if you prefer. But on the negative side, the story is very linear. Even when they give you branching options, usually they don't actually branch that much. You kind of come back to the same conclusion. And also, generally speaking, the effects of the choices you make in this mode don't often have that huge of an impact, like you might have one less hit point going into the fight, or you might have one more combat token to use once. So it's going to be potentially a mixed bag based on your preferences. But moving on to my number 4, this one is a full pro, although with a caveat, and that's the characters you control. So the game comes with 12 different varied characters, and they are very different. That's the first great thing. They have their own unique decks of cards, their own unique abilities. And besides the characters themselves being so cool, something I really love is how easy it is to switch things out. If you get bored with a character, or one player has to leave the game for a while, or has to quit, it's very simple to just slot somebody else in to level them up. They make all that very smooth. And something else I adore is the companion system. You can treat any of your characters as companions, which basically makes them a simplified version of themselves. This makes solo play way easier, this makes playing with fewer than 4 players way easier, and it makes playing with kids a lot easier. I played with my sons with them controlling these simplified characters. The one negative here that might bug some people is that the character leveling is not super exciting. You tend to get new cards or new abilities every 2 or 3 boss fights. That feels a little bit slow, and you do get new items after every boss fight, but a lot of times the abilities aren't that exciting or aren't that different from what you already had. So the leveling can feel a little bit slow sometimes and pretty linear. And for our number 3, I have another pro with a caveat, and this is looking at the bosses you fight. So there's a lot of really cool stuff here. The first thing I really need to call out, because I just love it, is that you can always see what the next boss AI card will do, what unique action they'll take. And this by itself is such a massive improvement over the vast majority of these boss battling games, because instead of the randomness of just something happening, you have this great opportunity for cooperation between the players in preparing for the card, deciding who's going to tank it. It's really great. On top of that, the bosses have great diversity and variety. Some of them are spawners with lots of little minions. Some of them are squads of people with different abilities. Some of them are just like one giant person, but even there, they have unique mechanics, unique decks of cards, unique things they do. But my quick caveats for this one, first of all, it can be a little bit fiddly sometimes to deal with the bosses and kind of figure out where they are facing. And second, generally speaking, you are going to fight the exact same boss at the exact same time in the campaign, so replay might suffer a little bit unless you choose to play at a higher difficulty setting or with different characters. My number 2 is also a pro and a full pro, no caveat here. And this one's a bit of a grab bag, looking at the tactical play in the game, the cooperation, and especially the randomness. So to focus on that randomness first, the game gives you the option to use either dice or cards or a mix for the players and even for the enemies, although they recommend the cards there to keep the distribution more balanced. And the core resolution with these dice or cards is great. Basically, you're pushing your luck, doing as much as you want, rolling or drawing as many things as you want, but if you get too many blanks, then you miss. But they have this wonderful determination mechanic where even if you go big and spend a ton of tokens to try to make your attack really successful, if you miss the attack, you get all that stuff back and even a bonus on top of it. So the game really lets you go for these big swings, these big Hail Mary passes, and doesn't punish you if you fail. Actually lets you kind of pick yourself up and try again even better the next time. I also really like the cooperation here. Every character has ways to help other players, and as I said, the boss AI is really deterministic. So if players want to, they can carefully consider where to move and who's going to be close hypnosis and who's going to take the hit and how to avoid the area of effect attacks. It leads to a lot of great table discussion, which I appreciate in this kind of game. And my number one, also a full-on pro, I love this about the game, and that is the Battleflow system. So full-player characters in the game have these animus gems. It reminds me a lot of the old Conan Monolith game, and you spend them to move, but you also spend them to play your ability cards. And these cards are unique to each class, and they go to different cooldown spots around your player board, but if there are already cards there, they get shifted around until you get down to the 0 spot, and you can get those cards back. So it's a cooldown system, but not a basic one where things just automatically cool down, you remove tokens every round, but where the cooldown is entirely controlled by the player, by the combos, by the choices you make. And this card play and cooldown mechanic is so cool because it also brings in injuries. If your character gets injured, you have to play those cards onto your board, and then you want to avoid cooling them down. You want to avoid bringing them back. You also have items that you play for bonuses, and you want to get those back around. So everything works with this cooldown mechanic, and I think it is just genius. Really gives me a feeling along the lines of Gloomhaven for nice, strategic, tactical card play. So overall, I loved Oathsworn. It mostly lived up to the hype in my mind. I think you might want to check this one out if you like boss battlers, if you like campaign and adventure games, especially narrative ones with a big focus on combat. If you're a Gloomhaven fan or just like tactical card play in general, this might float your boat. But on the other hand, you might want to use some caution if you don't want to spend a whole bunch of money, if you don't want to have a giant game or series of boxes if you go for the minis version. And also if you're looking for a very branching narrative where you can achieve very different endings, or if you're looking for, I don't know, a settlement phase like in Kingdom Death Monster, this game has some of the things of other boss battlers, but also does its own thing, and it won't be a winner for everybody. And just in case you didn't already see, I posted a full boss battle playthrough on the channel a couple of days ago, so you can check that out at the link above. Good gaming, everyone, and I'll see you at the next stop.